All right, welcome to the Somebody Like You podcast, where we will be talking about today's topic, which is mental health and your relationships, navigating through the up and downs of mental health in the relationships. As always, this podcast is sponsored today by our friends over at Somebody Like You Mental and Emotional Wellness. What we'd like to do over at Somebody Like You Mental and Emotional Wellness is navigate through the mental health journey, whether it be through consciousness, through spirituality, through just mental health in general. We are like tour guides, and what we do is we help you along the tour, and we point out things and obstacles that might be a chance to overcome, might be a chance to sit in and digest, and it might be an opportunity to kick it to the curb and get through it. So, welcome to this topic of mental health and your relationships, navigating the ups and downs. I'd like to welcome everybody. If you are joining me from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, if you're over there on TikTok, I'd like to welcome you. We are just going live for a little bit. Beforehand, my half-hour jam session before I jump on here is always invigorating and always puts me in the right mindset before we jump on. So let's talk about this, the link between mental health and relationships. First, it's important to acknowledge that our mental health and relationships are closely linked. Our mental health can impact how we interact with others. You ever notice when you're feeling really good about yourself, you feel like you're the best friend, the best husband, the best wife, the best girlfriend, the best whatever. Um, it all starts with how you feel about yourself. And I think a misconception is that the relationship is gonna bring out the good in us, the bad in us, and everything in between, and that can be true, but understand you bring out the best in you. You bring out the worst in you. Um, if somebody else is acting a certain way and making you feel a certain way, you are the person reacting, right? That I think that we often get caught up in that, and we like to play the blame game a little bit. We like to think that other people are responsible for how we act, and I think sometimes that can feel true, but also sometimes we need to take the accountability, understand that when we are feeling our best, it's because you are making yourself feel better. So how we perceive and respond to other actions and how we communicate our own feelings with other people, that starts with us, right? That starts with our mental health. That's with our mental well-being. So, what are the main links between mental health and relationship? Let's jump right into it. Communication. The main links between mental health and our relationship is communication. If you have lack of communication in your relationship, that is just going to be an ugly head that's going to rear its face down the line. Because once you get through that honeymoon period, whether it be a couple weeks, a couple months, even a couple years, if you don't know how to communicate with each other, you are never going to be able to get through the tough times, right? You have to learn how to communicate. Oftentimes, that starts with learning how to communicate with yourself. How are you going to be talked to? How are you going to be talked at? How are you going to be talked with? Because once you understand that they might have sounded very similar to you, there is a big difference in all of those things I just said. Talked to, talked at, and talked with. Because if you're being talked at, a part of you is going to understand that I do not be talked at. I will be talked with, and I can be talked to. Because being talked to is a form of communication I think of as somebody else needs to get something off their chest, right? They might not be talking and communicating with you. You just might be there to listen. So I think that's like being talked to. Talked at is I find disrespectful. You're talking at me like I don't know better, like I don't know myself. Gaslighting can be a big part of that. Um, but we want to aim to find somebody we can talk with. We want to find a way we can communicate with somebody. So that is on hard days. We are able to tell somebody, this is what I require on hard days. When I'm having a bad day at work, when I'm having somebody who's really getting on my nerves, this is what I require. I don't need solutions. I just need you to listen. So remember, talked to, talked with, and talked at. And remember, teaching, and we have people commenting on our YouTube channel. Thank you for coming. We have from Josh, and teaching your partner to communicate with you how you communicate and vice versa is such a steep challenge. It's absolutely, you know why that's a hard challenge, Josh? It's because we often don't know how to communicate with ourselves. The only way we know how to communicate is from how we were brought up, right? It's how we were brought up. It's how our parents, our loved ones, our childhood friends, our teachers, how they talk to us. So we were taught this is how you communicate to me. Well, newsflash, that's not. We all require little idiosyncrasies of how to be talked to, talked with, to not be talked at. Don, we are learning this now, and I hope he's listening. We are learning both how to navigate each other respectfully. That is huge. Respect, respect, respect. This podcast used to be called Respectfully Selfish. Um, I find that communication style, it starts with respect, whether it's with another person or it's with yourself. If you can't respectfully communicate with yourself, you cannot expect to communicate respectfully with somebody else because you don't know how. When things get tough, when you can only script things for so long. You can only have the same conversations with somebody for so long until something happens where it isn't normal. How do you communicate with somebody when it's uncomfortable? That is massive. If you can't communicate with somebody when it's uncomfortable, that is a sign that you need to work on communication styles with you and the other person. What are some other main links? Communication was big one. That's probably my number one. I think my greatest strength of my relationship with myself and with my significant other is communication. Um, we dated for a little bit. Things didn't work out the first time because we were going through some pretty big life events separately. I lost my best friend to addiction, and she was going through her own personal stuff as well. Things didn't line up. The next time around, she was living in Florida and I was living in Pennsylvania. We spent 6 months apart, and we spent 6 months seeing each other a total, I think, of 4 times, but we learned how to communicate. We learned how to communicate without the physical attraction, the physical touch, right? So what that helped us with was we talked about all the tough stuff. Hey, when I'm having a bad day, this is how I like to be communicated with. When I'm having a good day, this is you're going to know it because I'm going to text you this. I'm going to go through this. That was huge. Another main link is emotional regulation. Our ability to regulate our emotions can also affect the relationship. If we struggle to manage and work through our emotions, that's when you find people lash out or become withdrawn. I find it a lot of times, especially in males, the withdrawal from a relationship because we don't know how to communicate effectively. We don't know how to be vulnerable. And sometimes, and that's just typical, right? I'm just saying, I find in most of my coaching sessions that it's the male that has trouble communicating and being vulnerable with emotions. I'm not saying in every case, so don't take it personally if you're a male who communicates effectively. Um, But understand that if you can't regulate your emotions, you're going to take it out on someone else and yourself. How do you regulate emotions? Gotta name it to tame it, right? What is the emotion I'm feeling? If you can't tell somebody the emotion you're feeling, how the hell are you gonna know how to react to it? It's almost as simple as that. So if you're feeling anger, you have to understand I'm angry. And the next question is, why am I angry? Well, this. You gotta remember, emotional regulation starts with dissecting the emotion. And what you're doing when you're trying to emotionally regulate yourself is you're separating yourself from the emotion. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to observe the emotion as the viewer, just the awareness of that emotion. So if you're happy, you're observing happiness and you're feeling happiness. Remember, you are not happiness. You are not anger. You are the awareness that is experiencing happiness and anger. Once you can separate yourself from those things, the next time you feel angry, you're going to understand that you are not that anger. You're just experiencing anger. And that separation has been a game changer for me. I have Josh in the comments here saying, "My name is Josh, and I'm addicted to emotionally unavailable females." And I promise you, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because I too have been Josh for a long, long time. I found, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. Are you someone who loves to help people? Are you a giver? Are you the person that likes to be there when someone's having a tough day. Because I can tell you right now, as a giver, as a helper, as a doer, I felt, whether I wanted to admit it or not, I wanted to fix somebody. I wanted to be the superhero. I wanted to have the cape, right? I wanted to, and it was for, I think it was for selfish reasons. The more I look back at my own personal experiences, I wanted to be the reason somebody felt better. Now I still feel that way, right? But it's from a place of genuine authenticity of help. Before I wanted to be a hero. Now I want to be a helper. So I'm really happy you shared that, because I have too been very involved with unemotional or emotionally unavailable females. Um, what are some other links between mental health and relationships? The attachment styles. So think of it this way. Um, our attachment styles are shaped by our early life experiences. So if you have an insecure attachment style, you may struggle with trust and intimacy. If at a young age you experience people that were standoffish, that broke your line of trust, um, if you were insecure about, people made you feel insecure about yourself, that's going to come through in your relationship. That's something that you need to be aware of. Remember, this all starts with self-awareness. Being self-aware is the link to your mental health and any relationship, whether it be romantic, whether it be self, whether it be a family relationship. It all starts with you. So understanding and being self-aware. And remember this, nobody, you've heard this quote before, no one can make you feel inferior without your own consent. Do not let people make you feel differently about yourself. You have to learn how to feel confident in who you are. That is not easy. That is not meaning, oh, well, I'm never going to change. I was like this since I was 10 years old or 15 or 20, 30. It doesn't matter. Understand who you are. And the more flexible you can be to understand you're going to grow and evolve, that is going to make you so self aware and such a prime player in the relationship. Because then you can help other people. Once you know who you are and you don't rely on somebody else to make you feel certain ways, you're going to have resiliency, my friend. And you're going to be able to understand that you don't need that from other people. Now, you may have a different attachment style. You may require physical touch. Your love language may be different, but you'll be able to communicate that because you're self aware. And if they refuse or don't put in the effort to give that to you, you're so self aware that this isn't what I want. This isn't what I require. And I think that is where we get lost sometimes, is once we get into a committed relationship, we feel we have to do anything we can to make it work. That means sacrifice our mental health, sacrifice our well-being, sacrifice our goals, because somewhere along the lines, whether it was a movie, whether it was a personal experience when we were kids, we were taught that you do not give up. You're not the person. But remember, if you're not getting in return what you're giving, there's not even exchange, you're not being met in the middle with your needs and your wants, and you're constantly just trying to give somebody else their needs and wants, that's an unhealthy and toxic relationship. Not just between you and the other person, that's a toxic relationship with yourself. If you're constantly giving and giving and giving and not getting anything in return, the toxic relationship with yourself is that you're so unself-aware that you don't know how to ask for or receive or require love in return. That's huge, and it's hard to hear because I've been that person. I felt that I had to give up everything, including my mental health, my self of purpose, my self of worth, for other people to love me. And when I didn't get that love in return, I was broken. And I mean broken. I felt I gave everything in my power to somebody, and I got nothing in return. What did I learn there? I learned that the problem started with me not knowing my self-worth, not knowing what I require, not knowing when to step away, not knowing my boundaries. That's where it started. Now, yes, the other person will play a role in all of these things, but they're showing you who they are, repeatedly showing you who they are. At some point, that turns around onto us and it's just a mirror being held in front of your face saying, will you look at where the problem is? Nothing is going to change. We always quote on this podcast the definition of insanity because mental health can sometimes feel like it's insanity. But if you're working with somebody and they are constantly showing you every pattern they have and they're not changing, but you are sticking it out, who sings it? Taylor Swift. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. That's a tough one. And if it felt like I was talking directly to you, I hope it resonated because honestly, I was just talking to 10 years ago, Ben. Um, so if it felt like I was getting worked up, it's because I'm looking at my face in a screen right now, and I was having a conversation with younger me that was waiting to hear that. So if that is inspiration to you to have the conversation with yourself to understand that your self-worth starts with you. People will show you repeatedly who they are, not by what they say, by what they do. It starts with you. And remember, your self-worth is not dependent on other people. Your love is not dependent on other people. You have it all, but I do not get this twisted. It is hard work. And when you say it shouldn't be this hard, this sucks. I shouldn't. Self-love shouldn't hurt this bad. If it hurts that bad, it's because you're finally breaking through walls. You're finally at the point where you said, I'm committed to working so hard on myself that when it sucks, I keep going. How did this start with me talking about attachment styles? Sitting here practically just preaching to myself. Thank you for everyone jumping in. We got Greg in the chat. Thank you everybody for jumping in. I could see that on your face. I do that a lot with myself. Thank you for everybody jumping in and joining and hanging out, listening to this podcast. I hope we're able to kind of help along with mental health and the relationships between ourselves and others. There's a link there. So what else we got? We got stress. Now, we often hear when you're with somebody, you want to, before you get married or before whatever, you want to be with them while through the good times, the bad times, the financially struggling times, um, while they're grieving. You want to see all sides of them, right? You want to see the every facet of the person you're committing to. What about when they're stressed? What about when you're stressed? Because work, life, it's all going to happen. So how do you manage stress? Because if you don't know how to manage stress, you're not going to know how to help your partner manage stress. And if you're constantly stressed out, that communication, that emotional regulation, all the other things we're going to talk about here are not going to be worthwhile because you can't manage stress in your life. You can't communicate with yourself, you can't communicate with others. If you're stressed out all of the time, you're not going to want to be with yourself, right? So, for example, if you're under a lot of stress at work, you're going to become irritable, distant with your partner. We just talked about emotional regulation, attachment styles. All this stuff is related because if you don't know how to regulate your emotions, you don't know how to communicate, you're not self aware enough of your attachment style. When you're stressed out, you are just going to isolate without being able to tell your partner that this is what I require when I feel stressed. I just need an hour to decompress. I need to go into the room, I need to throw out my headphones, or maybe I need to go for a walk, or maybe I need to just listen to some music. Maybe I need to you're gonna figure it out. But you need to have all of these tools and how to work through these tools, which we will get to, on how to work through this. Remember, if you are stressed and you are constantly removing yourself from situations, but not knowing how to effectively communicate and regulate your emotion or being self-aware enough to know what you're going through, these are places to start. And don't overlook mental health conditions, right? Anxiety, depression, bipolar, all of these things are real struggles. So just because sometimes mainstream makes them feel like, oh, everyone has it, that doesn't mean that they're not freaking really hard. I've gone through anxiety and panic disorder, still work through it. Um, I couldn't leave the house, and now you're looking, listening, talking with somebody who grew up and was very self-confident in themselves, that could walk into a room and felt like they could own a room. They could make people laugh, they could be liked, all this yada, yada, yada. That has when that is stripped away from you and you cannot leave a house, you cannot talk on a phone, you don't want people seeing you, I anxiety isn't just worrying about things that are going to happen, it can be debilitating. So remember, when you're working through mental health conditions such as anxiety, depression, bipolar, all of this stuff, get the help needed. I often talk about that in my coaching. Um, I'll help you find a therapist that's right for you. That's part of coaching. I will be there to listen and help with your shift in perspective, shift in mindset. That is coaching. If you look at healing and a journey as if it's a tree, there are so many branches on the tree, and all of those branches make up the healing journey. So sometimes you need a coach, sometimes you need a therapist, sometimes you need a medium, sometimes you need um, other stuff. Sometimes you need hypnotherapy. All of these things are all connected to healing. It's about finding what works best for you. So remember, don't take mental health conditions just at face value and be like, everyone has anxiety. Everybody has this stuff. Everyone goes through this. You know why I feel so lonely? Because that's the power that these conditions have. Yeah, anxiety will make you feel like you're less of a person because everyone has it and you should be able to work through it like they do. You don't understand what other people go through. You don't understand what other people are feeling. Just because I'm on a podcast or I'm on social media or you're seeing what other people are talking about, you're seeing a projection of what they want you to see. Even when you're standing in front of somebody for an hour, you're going to see a projection, right? You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, just like they don't know what's going on behind closed doors with you. So if you have a mental health condition, you need to, one, learn to find support, learn to be able to talk about it, learn to get help. And why to be able to talk about it? Because you need to be able to communicate with yourself and with your partner on what you require in these moments of anxiety, depression, any other condition that you have. Because if you don't know what you require, they sure as hell will not know what you require. And then we will get upset, right? As the people be like, well, they didn't help me. They didn't tell me to do this. They didn't go get me this. They If you don't know how to ask and communicate for things or let people know that you can't communicate in those moments, we don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. That's what I say with my partner. I tell her, hey, I need you to be able to tell me in these moments what you will require. And I understand if it is that moment and you're anxious and you don't have it, down the line, I'm going to need you to tell me when I'm feeling like that. This is what I need. This is what I look for. This is what helps me. Because then I know, right? Otherwise, I'm just playing. I'm just playing where's Waldo and where's the magic solution to help this all go away. And sometimes there is no magic solution. Sometimes it's just being there, holding a hand, listening, letting them know you're not going anywhere. And that's my biggest thing is when I'm having an anxiety or panic attack, it's just having them there. You don't have to say anything to me. Just help me feel better by not judging that I feel this way, right? It's important to note that mental health and relationships are complex and multifaceted. So, not one of these things are going to be easier than the other, not one of those for you versus other people. And all these things can vary depending on you and your relationship. It all starts with how our experiences growing up or throughout our lives, because maybe you haven't had a toxic relationship. Maybe you're going through one right now. Maybe it's your first, maybe it's your 40th. My question is during this journey, what lessons are you learning? What lessons are you learning? Take a step back for a moment right now. And if you're going through something good or bad, right? What lesson am I learning? Because sometimes when you're going through something really good, you think this is the payoff. No, this is also a lesson. What have I learned in this moment of joy, gratefulness, gratitude, all the stuff? What have I learned? For me, I learned that I'm strong. I'm able to get through these things. There will be bad days. There will be days that I don't want to put in the work, but I've conditioned and trained myself to know that That hard work helps me feel good today. All those all those days where I felt like I was struggling, all those days where I felt like I didn't wanna be here, I didn't wanna put in the work, I didn't wanna talk to somebody, but I chose every single day to do it for years, months, whatever it may be. Every moment has led me to right here, and that's huge. That's massive. We're moving into segment number 2, common challenges in relationships. They're gonna sound familiar, friends, because there are many challenges that can arise during relationships, where one or both parties can just feel emotionally drained. Their mental health conditions or mental health experiences are just getting on top of them, and that's okay. But we have to learn that working through difficulties of expressing our emotions, getting through increased conflict or tension, it starts with communication, right? We can feel disconnected from one another and even decrease intimacy. Now, remember, just because you feel disconnected from another person, sometimes we feel this is the end, we're done. If you're in it for the long haul, if you're married, if you're dating, if you're just with yourself, this is something to completely understand with yourself. When you feel disconnected with yourself, you're not going anywhere, right? Well, if you're in a committed relationship, understand just because you feel disconnected doesn't mean you're going anywhere. Doesn't mean that they're going anywhere. But how do you know that? Especially with yourself, practice. Constantly showing up even when you feel disconnected from yourself. Those are the days you need to show up the most. Now, when it relates to somebody else, it's as simple as saying, "Hey, the past couple days I felt a little bit disconnect. Are we okay? Is everything okay?" I think that is a really easy question to ask, but I also feel it's a really tough one to ask. Because what happens when the answer is no, I don't feel good. Once again, that doesn't mean we're leaving, we're done, we're out. See you later. Peace. Nice knowing you. No. Sometimes be like, hey, we're not good because this happened yesterday. And it made me feel this way. And when I felt this way, I drew back. I decided I felt like there was a little bit of trust that I lost. These are conversations you need to have. Now, how you communicate these things are where the common challenges happen. When you let anger, frustration, all of the other undesirable emotions, right, that are necessary, these emotions are necessary to experience the other side of the emotion, right? You need sadness to experience happiness. You need anger to experience joy, happiness, fun, all those things. So remember, how you communicate is big, but you need to learn how you want to communicate with yourself. Because there can be communication breakdowns, misunderstandings, and misinterpretations. These will lead to conflict and tension. And if you're a person that waits until the last minute to blow your gasket, yeah, of course, communication is going to be tough. And some people might laugh and be like, yeah, I really do. And then all of a sudden, I'm a loose cannon. And sometimes we take pride in that. It's almost as if, that's like a badge of honor because when we were younger, the kids who were the angriest or the kids who had the loudest voices got the most attention. So you sit there like, yeah, it was cool to have a bad temper. Well, we grew up. Those kids grew up and those temper tantrums turned into abuse, self-abuse, partner abuse, domestic abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. Understand that that's what happens when you can't communicate and resolve conflict effectively because when you were younger, you were rewarded for being the loudest tantrum in the world and the toughest, baddest person. That's a toxic trait. Learn how to communicate through that because it will lead to trust issues. Another one of the most common challenges in relation is trust issues. It's a foundational element to a healthy relationship is trust. And the biggest thing is when you do lose trust, communicate that effectively. You don't need to lose your temper. You don't need to make someone else feel what you feel. All you need to do is tell and show someone how you feel. I always say this, everything in life is about intentions. What are your intentions? Are your intentions to break up? Because if your intentions are to break up and leave this person, yeah, let it rip. Be angry, yell, scream, whatever. But if your intention is not to break up, your intention is to make this work, act accordingly. Because all by doing this stuff, you're going to break trust as well. Remember, trust is a foundational part of a relationship. Without trust, there is no relationship. There's a toxic one. If you don't trust each other, someone tells you they're going to constantly do something and never do it. It's breaking trust, right? Because what can I expect? We have a funny comment. Holding in anger is like holding in a fart. Sooner or later, the dam's just going to burst. Rebecca, that is spot on. If you hold it in, and it's going to be the littlest of things too. If it's going to be the littlest of things that are going to blow your gasket, the other person's going to be like, I'm sorry. I'll take out the trash. They're going to have no idea what you're even angry about because you can't communicate. Have you found a theme? I should have labeled this podcast communication is going to make or break your relationship because it's the cornerstone to everything. Now, obviously, moving on to the next part of our common challenges, really, infidelity. Now, I think this goes without saying, unless there is a previous agreement in the terms of your relationship that you have talked and communicated about, um, don't go be dipping things where they don't belong, or you know what I mean. Don't go do that. I don't think this one needs too much. But I will say this, right? Communication, because these things happen in relationships, right? We're not going to sit here and just avoid them and be like, you know, this is uncomfortable to talk about. If you're listening to this and you've been somebody who cheated or was cheated on, it is uncomfortable to talk about it. I've been cheated on in almost all of the relationships I've been in, except the one I'm currently in right now. And I will tell you, from a person who has been cheated on, I wish we would have talked about it because I would have known much sooner that this wasn't for me or it was. But I went through, hey, this happened. And then it was kind of like it just wasn't talked about. It was like, oh, well, if you're going to stay here, then this is what we're going to do. No, learn how to communicate and talk about it, whether that's seeing a therapist, seeing a relationship coach, talking to a counselor. If the intention is to stay with somebody, you will find a way to make that work. We got different values or goals coming up. If you share different values or goals, understand that is okay. Understand that it's okay to have different goals and different values than somebody else, because different values, different goals can align with each other. You're allowed to have grown up differently because some Christians have different values than people from the Jewish community, right? It happens. It's okay. What isn't okay is when someone's values or goals disrespect your values or goals. It's all about respect. It's all about communicating. This is all about understanding yourself. Because if somebody else's values or goals then just become your values or goals, but they're not really yours, you just kind of were a chameleon and adopted theirs because you were infatuated with somebody for a short time. Well, when you no longer, or when you meet that crossroad of those values and morals happening to come right across your screen or come across your life, and you get that feeling in your stomach where you go, this doesn't feel good. Don't ignore that. Don't ignore that. Is your intuition, that is your gut feeling, that is things talking like, I am not moving in the direction I want. I am not in harmony. I am in dissonance. It, once again, you talk about these things with your significant other. It's a very easy conversation to have. Be respectful. Be like, hey, when that happened, like, it made me feel a little weird. I just kind of need to know, like, is that what you're, is that what you feel? Is that what you do? Is that what your goal is? And that answer can be yes. I think the biggest thing to take away from this is understand what you will and what you will not tolerate. And when I say tolerate, I mean what you won't accept. Because if someone's values are disrespectful to yours, it's not the relationship for you, friend. Yeah, it might be hard to hear. Um, Remember, we live in a society where we feel like we have to die trying. We signed on a dotted line. This means bring it back. If it's not making you happy, if you're not aligned with somebody and your goals are disrespecting each other, your values are disrespecting each other, you're in the wrong relationship. You need to find a relationship with yourself. What you will and what you not will not accept, because that is the problem. Is you are a little wishy-washy with yourself. Be confident with yourself. Know who you are and what you're about, and accept only that. Accept what you want. If it's not for you, respectfully bow out, and that's okay. You're not a failure if the relationship doesn't work. A lot of good things could have come from this relationship. A lot of good things can come from ending the relationship. It doesn't mean it's easy, but remember, it you have to wake up and choose each other. You don't have to wake up and be obligated to each other. Choose each other, and that starts with the communication of everything. We talked about seeing each other in good times, bad times, financially struggling times, grieving times. Because I'll tell you what, money problems bring out the beast in some of us, huh? Right? Too much of it, too little of it, not enough of it. Desperate people say desperate things. Desperate people will do desperate things. Greedy people will do greedy things. They'll walk all over you. They'll do anything for a dollar. So understand, money problems just doesn't come from lack of, can also come from too much of, and not knowing how to do with it or what to do with it. Everyone who's listening and jumping in, and I want to say thank you. If you are a new listener, thank you for jumping in here. Um, I see a lot of the comments. I don't want you to think I'm ignoring them. I was kind of on a roll there for a minute. Um, so, like I said, all the new listeners, thanks for jumping in here. Remember, I'm just somebody like you, right? I just happen to be a mental and emotional wellness coach. This topic about relationships and mental health is big to me because I just recently have a new couple clients that are looking for a little bit of help with the connection between their mental health and relationships, failed relationships, struggling relationships. So these are all big things. So I just want to say thank you for everyone jumping in here. And I'd like to thank the sponsor for this host, somebody like you, mental and emotional wellness coaching. Do I find myself funny for saying that? Yes, I do, because that is my coaching. And I do sponsor myself. But if you can't sponsor yourself, who will? Boom. Everybody, you are so welcome for the topics today. And now I want to bring in the home stretch here. We're going to talk about some strategies for navigating these mental health and relationships, these problems. We listed a bunch of things, and I think you can all agree with me that one of the main problems here is communication. So, what is one of the strategies for navigating mental health relationships? It's practice open and honest communication. You have to encourage the other person to be open and honest. Because a lot of times, the hardest part about communication is you are going to hear things you don't want to hear. And the first thing you're going to want to do is jump down that person's throat, tell them while they're wrong, what they're attacking you. Lay your ego aside for a second and let the person just talk. Understand that you have something to learn from them being open and honest, because sometimes it's not always about us. It's about something their mom said. It's about something that their brother or sister did, a past relationship did. Because you have to encourage open and honest communication and create a non-judgmental space. As soon as I feel judged in a conversation, I want to stop talking. As soon as I feel like somebody is waiting just to argue with me, I want to stop talking. This isn't a debate. I'm telling you how I feel. And as soon as I'm told I'm wrong for how I feel, yes, I shut down. And I think you can understand why, because I'm sure you feel the same way. I always say, especially with my significant other, This isn't a debate, this is a conversation. Now, if you, it's okay not to agree, and I'm more than willing to understand and hear you out. It's all about the respect factor, right? Just hear me and understand this is how I feel. Because I'm going to do my best to hear you and understand how you feel without letting our egos bash into each other. We don't need our egos yelling at each other. We have to practice open and honest communication. And that is where a relationship coach, counseling, couples therapy, they're going to give you those tools, right? I can give you the starting point here. That's what you need. And if you don't know how to go about it, I am more than happy to help. I'm more than happy to lead you to people I feel that might be a good fit for you. But understand open and honest communication and letting the ego sit on the bench for a little bit, it's going to be a huge strength for you in your relationship. Part of that is our next point of setting boundaries. You have to establish healthy boundaries and learn how to communicate them. You have to be clear with your partner about what your boundaries are. I will not accept this. I will accept this. I didn't like when that happened. I didn't like when you did that. Now, this sounds like you. You're learning what you will accept, right? Because if these people keep doing those things, you have to stand on your belief of what your boundaries are and what you will and won't accept. Otherwise, you're going right back into the poor mental health dungeon, right? You work so hard to crawl out of what you're going through that it is so important to stand on your boundaries and not let somebody manipulate you into feeling a certain way or doubting yourself. You're going to doubt yourself enough along this journey. You don't need if somebody else is making you doubt yourself and question you about yourself, it ain't the person. You want the person that's going to lift you up, make you feel awesome, make you feel supported, make you feel like you have a teammate. Otherwise, it's toxic manipulation for them to get what they want. It's narcissism. So you need to set boundaries and understand that there is this energy exchange between you and another person, but you need to be you in that situation. It's okay not to agree on things. It's okay if you can learn how to communicate that, but set your boundaries. What's one way to learn? You have to practice self care. You have to learn what self care is for yourself because you can't set boundaries in a place of chaos because everything is going to be a boundary. I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want her to say this. I don't want him to do that. I don't practice self care. Try to get back to baseline through meditation, through exercise, through mindfulness, through whatever it may be, getting out in nature, going to ground yourself barefoot in the grass, drawing yourself a bath, reading a book, watching The Office from your laptop or iPad or whatever it might be. Practice self care because in those moments of clarity, it's going to be crystal clear what you will and won't accept. And then you got to trust your gut. Like, and I'm looking at you, I'm talking to you. You know what feels good and what doesn't feel good from a relationship standpoint, right? What you will and what you won't accept. Your gut tells you without hesitation, it doesn't ever second guess. Your mind is the one that's second guessing, being like, oh, well, they said they do this, but they didn't. You listen to your gut. We have someone saying it's the boundaries that he does not understand. And what I will say here, thank you for sharing, number one. Um, it's about communication, right? If someone doesn't understand the boundaries, what can we do to help communicate those boundaries? Because sometimes maybe we're not crystal clear. I know I've been someone that hasn't been crystal clear about my boundaries. And maybe you have been. And then if you have been crystal clear about the boundaries, then there's a next step, right? Then there's a conversation that has to be had to be like, hey, I feel disrespected. I set these lines in the sand. This is how I feel about this. When you do this, blah, blah, blah. And I feel it's a little disrespectful because I'm not getting met in the middle here with a little bit. I'm not asking you to completely change, just asking you to be respectful of my boundary. So remember that it comes from communication as a sense of respect. Because sometimes we say one thing one time, and then it's like a dog. seeing if they can get away with stuff, right? Did you really mean what you said? This isn't a snap of the finger quick fix kind of thing. Um, our boundaries are going to be tested. Our boundaries are going to be like, do you really mean these boundaries? People will soon realize that you're serious about them because you have to act and stand on your boundaries. I don't accept this. And then with like, "Ah, I'm just kidding. I'm just doing that." No, I was very serious about this and stand on it. But understand, communicate from a place of love first and be like, hey, this is my, I don't want to say this is a prompt, but a place to start is, hey, when you did this, I know we talked about it before and it just kind of makes me feel kind of disrespected or unworthy. I just know you kind of did it yesterday. Um, I just want to kind of make it clear that like that that doesn't make me feel good. And if we could just kind of work together to make sure that doesn't happen again, please let me know what I can do to help. From there, now it's collaborative. It's a teammate thing. And then you're going to know pretty quick if they take you seriously or not. And then if not, and it's disrespect again, yada yada. Then you move from there and it's a different conversation. But that would be my prompt or 2 cents to how to kind of work through that. Um, and obviously, it's a strategy that has been beneficial to me. I've gone to therapy. I've gone through all those kind of things. Therapy, seeking professional help, whether it be coaching, whether it be counseling, whether it be therapy, because sometimes coaching is an option. Like that's where I say my coaching is an option because it's less expensive than therapy. Um, I do not take the place of a therapist. I am somebody who will listen. I am somebody who will help provide perspective, some guidance, help you navigate the road of mental health, relationships, anxiety, depression, grief. I will help you with those things, but I do not take the place of a educated therapist. I'm an educated coach with a degree in psychology, and I have a certificate in coaching. That is my specialty. A counselor, a therapist, hypnotherapy, whatever feels right. Seek professional help. Listen to people. Listen to the people that are supportive of your healing journey, and you'll find that you're being guided down somewhere, down a road that might feel a little uncomfortable. Remember, be like water, be fluid. When you start to feel uncomfortable on a healing journey, it usually means you're going the right way. Um, when you step into a therapist office and you feel really uncomfortable, it's because all of those traumas and all of those things are scared that you're finally going to work through it. And all the anxiety is popping up. It's like, no, we don't need this. We don't need this. We're fine. Seek help. Don't think it's a weakness. Don't think you're less of a man. Don't think you're less of a person. Don't think you're a strong and able woman. Asking for help is the ultimate superpower you can have. I promise you, no one has gotten through this alone. I promise you that every wealthy person you see didn't just do it by themselves. Everyone needs help. So please understand whether you're man, woman, whatever you may identify yourself as, please don't fall into social stigmas of what is and what isn't. You need help. Ask for it. That's a superpower, baby. Asking for help is a superpower. Remember, build healthy coping mechanisms. A lot of us turn to drugs, alcohol, un- binge eating, binge watching television, all of these things. They're not healthy coping mechanisms. You have to encourage the development of healthy coping mechanisms for you, your partner. This can look like mindfulness, meditation, reading, educating yourself. All of these things are healthy coping mechanisms. You ever feel like the night after drinking, you wake up in the morning and you feel almost 10 times worse than you did the time before? Well, that's because your energy level is depleted. It spiked really high about you were forgetting everything and then whoosh, straight back down. Work on building healthy coping mechanisms. And that starts with focusing on your strengths. When you focus on your strengths and not on your weaknesses, you get 10 times stronger. That's how when I was a manager for pharmaceuticals, whenever I had like a leadership role, that is the number one thing, especially as a coach. I'm going to say, hey, I understand right now you want to work on your weaknesses because you feel like your mental health is a weakness. You feel like your communication is a weakness. Well, let's focus on the stuff that is your strengths. Let's double down on your strengths, because by doing that, you're going to build this self confidence. You're going to build this ability to do things that you didn't think were possible, and your strengths are going to or your weaknesses are going to get smaller and smaller. And the stronger you get, the easier it is to work through those, what we view as weaknesses, those lessons. Weaknesses aren't weaknesses, they're lessons. And the stronger you are by doubling down on your strengths, you're going to learn. Let's use an example. I had somebody jump into my TikTok comments, and this one's for you. If you have self-confidence issues, you get worried on going on lives, if you're worthy enough, if you're good enough, if you're going to be able to do certain things. Well, what are your strengths? Right? Your strengths are bringing people together. Your strengths are communicating with spirit as a medium. Your strengths are being lovable, huggable, maybe. Your strengths are your ability to communicate and bring people together, not just in the physical world, but the spiritual world as well. If you double down on all of those strengths, the weaknesses of self confidence, of am I good enough, become smaller and smaller. It doesn't mean that those weaknesses or what we perceive as weaknesses go away. They're going to be there, but your strengths are going to just shadow over them, right? They're going to sit there and you're going to understand that all of these things just outweigh that self doubt. And how does that relate in relationships? Sometimes you may feel like we're not the best person to talk to, but what are you good at? Maybe I'm a really hard worker. Maybe I get all the chores done in the house. Maybe I do this. Concentrate on your strengths, because the more you concentrate on your strengths, the less power your weaknesses have. I'll say that one more time. The more you concentrate and focus on your strengths, the less power you give to your weaknesses. And the less power your weaknesses have, the more strengths your strengths have. Boom. That one felt good. Remember to work together as a team in your relationship too. Work together as a team. Yes, you can be as strong as you want individually. You can be the strongest person, but if you're not a team, the tough times get harder. If you are not a teammate with your partner, the hard times get harder. I just think about that from my perspective. I can only help so many people. But if I have a team with me, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times. Last night, I was fortunate enough to sit on a panel of people in front of 150 people to help people. Could I do that by myself? Yeah, over the course of like 3 months. But with the help of other people, I was able to help with other people at that moment in time 10 times I could right now. So remember, find your teammate, be a teammate yourself, and work as a team. Because remember, navigating mental health in a relationship, it's hard. It takes freaking effort and communication from both partners. Now, I understand we're talking about you and the relationship with you and how this it takes two to tango, right? It takes another person, but the strength of yourself and the self awareness of yourself is going to make you such a good teammate and such a good partner. And you're going to attract people, and people are going to meet you at where you are. That's what I say in my coaching. I say, I can only meet you where you are, right? I know you want to get somewhere, but I'm not going to talk to you from the place you want to go because you're not there yet. It's just like people can't meet you where you want to be because you're not there yet. People are going to meet you where you are. That's going to be hard to hear, but I'll say it again. People meet you where you are. You are attracting the direct mirror image of where you are in your healing journey. That's tough to hear. That's the self accountability. That is sometimes the ugly truth because you're like, well, I'm attracting shit. Yep. Doesn't mean you're shit. Remember, that's not how we talk to ourselves. But take it as a little bit of a sign, right? Like, oh, I got some work to do. And that's okay because the work's the fun part. Doesn't feel like it. I know. Wait till you start seeing some progress. Whoo, it's addicting. That's a whole different. Sometimes you get addicted to the healing, and then which means you stay healing, and you don't ever get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's a whole different perspective. We'll worry about that when we get there, right? Because we can only meet each other where we are. So remember, yes, you'll mirror each other in a relationship. You become chameleons to each other. So remember to prioritize intimacy, prioritize communicating, prioritize practicing self-care, seeking help, healthy coping mechanisms, focusing on each other's strengths. Remember, you're not each other's parent, you're each other's teammate. You're not each other's parent, you're each other's teammate. It's big. It's really, really big. So remember that navigating mental health in a relationship takes effort, it's hard work, but with the right tools and strategies, it's possible to build a healthy and fulfilling relationship. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Somebody Like You podcast. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Somebody Like You Mental and Emotional Wellness Coaching, for jumping in here and helping us as well. Um, for anybody who is curious, I had to change my Instagram because it was infiltrated. So our new Instagram is somebody like you underscore mental health. That is all one word, somebody like you underscore mental health. Um, so if you are listening in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and you are looking to find a page that helps you with your mental health, that talks about relationships, that talks about consciousness, that talks about my own personal journey, that way you can help yourself, that's one place to find me as well. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning into this week's podcast. Share with a friend that may need to hear it. Share with somebody that might be going through a little bit of a tough time. Because that's why we make these, right? This isn't a solo effort on my end. I encourage everyone here to help others. So if you find this helpful, share it with somebody else who it might be helpful for as well. I will talk to everybody. I will talk to everybody later. And once again, have yourself an amazing day. Peace and love to everybody. Bye bye.